last video I did, which was about exam strategy on time management, I wanted to just look at a more general view about English. And I'd like to sort of push the idea that studying GCSE English teaches more than English. In fact, it has so many other skills that go inside of the subject. Um, Sometimes I say to my students, you have to be a bit of a detective or a lawyer, because a lot of the time spent on the GCSE English is studying text and then making judgments and assumptions or inferences about the evidence that you read. Um, so it's a fascinating subject that touches many other elements of skill that we need in our life. I've always said that English is not a subject; it's more of a life skill, and we've got to embrace it. It's going to be with us all the way through our lives. So I've kind of put a 10-point um, sort of chart, I think, of what makes. So, what are the key skills of an excellent GCSE student? Now, what's not on the list is necessarily genius and intelligence, and having to be somebody who's incredibly gifted doesn't mean you have to be that to be a great English GCSE student. There are lots of tricks and tips that you have to learn in GCSE English to really um, do well. My number one is that good GCSE English students really do read to understand. Now, I didn't say they read all the time. I said they just, when they read very meticulously, maybe intensely, but they really want to understand what the text is. So they may not be fast readers, but they read well and they can pick up and understand the gist of whatever it is they're reading. Number two is always developing knowledge across all media. Um, Now, I've always said to young students that they must have a good general knowledge about everything, and it is important. Um, don't go around during your young life with the head in the sand. Try to be aware of what's going on around you and be part of it. So number three is having an opinion about current affairs. Um, some things we don't find interesting when we're young. We see them as boring, but the younger that you at least try to understand elements of current affairs, the greater your ability to have an opinion on different texts that come up in the English language papers and things like that. So having an opinion is very important, but it comes out of wanting to learn more about things. The other thing that good students do is they don't have to be asked to to do more research. So let's just take an example so that you do a poem and it's Wilfred Owen and it's exposure. Now, he's a very famous war poet, probably one of the greatest of the First World War. But you need to find out about him. So a good student will get on the internet and research Wilfred Owen and find out what else he's done and what's his motivation for doing what he does. So if you read around the subject, you're more likely to have a greater understanding of the techniques used to impress the reader. You, a good student is a creative writer with their own voice and style. It's difficult for teachers sometimes to have a class of students and teach them how to have style. In fact, they probably can't. So there tends to be a lot of generic ways of doing things, which are a bit robotic sometimes. But you need, as a young person growing up, is to have your own voice and develop that as early as you can, and then add the refinements and the structural elements and the language elements later. To extend that point, number 6, you can be an influential writer, able to persuade. Now that is a massive jump up a skill, but it's the way you can use positive language or techniques in order to engage a reader or engage an audience if you're doing a speech. Um, but it's being able to again see different ways, and this comes from knowledge. And then number 7 is being an active listener, and the key word is active listener, not somebody who hears. I mean, obviously, in my teaching past, I've had classes, and you can tell those that are listening, and you can tell those that are just hearing, or maybe they're not really hearing. So an active listener, being somebody who's prepared to listen and learn, and pick up ideas. Number 8 is understanding the different perspectives and viewpoints. Very much the theme of English language paper 2 in AQA. It's called Writers' Perspectives and Viewpoints. We have to understand that English is over many years. It can be historical, um, and it can be quite ancient when you look at Shakespeare. But we have to understand the perspectives and understand what it was like in those times as best we can, by researching those times, but not being judgmental too much and comparing it too much with the current. And number 9, to be good at this subject, you've got to be brave and innovative. And number 10, and probably it goes with being brave, you have to be prepared to make mistakes. Anyway, that's my little sort of top 10 how to be an excellent GCSE student. Obviously, if you've got opinions about what makes an excellent GCSE student, please get in touch with me.